Yeah. Morning.
Morning.
Morning. Right, some of you know me, some of you don't. And some of you that know me maybe don't know what you need to know. So what I usually do when I'm opening these things, before we get into the subject matter, is I'm going to give you guys 3 minutes, and let's divide you into you three are a group, you three are a group, you three are a group.
Okay.
You're going to need to collaborate with each other at some stage within the time, okay? But I want you to get your heads together and say, who the heck is this guy? And why should we get to know him, like him, and trust him? Because I need, like usually if I'm doing a whole day thing, I've got a lot of time to build rapport, make the connection, and then, by sort of the first break, everyone's kind of chill. We'll get an hour. So I want you to challenge me with a beautifully crafted question. The answer to that question will be like, okay, I'm ready to listen to this man now, because I know enough that I'm ready to listen. Okay? All right, so you got 3 minutes to come up with a question per group, one question per group, and make sure that I don't get asked the same question 3 times. That's where you need to collaborate. Okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the stopwatch, and I'm going to step out of the room, and I'm going to be back in 3 minutes. Go. Because I don't want to be prepped with questions.
Question about you.
Yeah, so that you can know, like, and trust me. Okay. I don't mind who goes first.
I don't know how many
Start there? Yeah? Okay. All right, we're partying this morning.
Yes, good. We have a great question.
Yeah, we went through different questions, but the one that we decided to ask you is, has anything happened in your life or in your friends, family's life that has not triggered something that has made you so passionate about this topic? It's legend to be so passionate about this.
Without being too personal.
No, it's of course. You know, of course.
Yes. Okay. Next.
That was our question. We forgot to collaborate.
So I asked you for a beautifully crafted question, and you asked me a closed question.
Oh, because it was a yes or no answer.
We didn't want to be too personal, so if you just.
I don't mind. There, yeah. No,
So you
but
guys want me to
We
follow
did have a
words?
we did have a
okay,
question.
I will answer that in a little bit more depth. So I grew up in a house where time and safety were about life and death. My mother was a brittle diabetic. My father worked a 3-shift program at a local factory. Okay, so at the age of 5, I knew how to administer my mum's insulin, and I knew how to inject her with glucogen or force-feed her sugar should her blood sugar drop, because her blood sugar could drop while she was eating if there wasn't enough sugar in the food she was eating, or enough carbohydrate. Okay, so from the age of 5, that was my life. So planning ahead and thinking about when are we going to eat, what are we going to do, where are we going to go. So if we traveled anywhere, there had to be snacks, there had to be these things. So that was just normal for me growing up. I could wake up in the morning, or sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night, and this is weird, but I could smell that my mother had gone unconscious. And I can only describe it as smell. There was a sense, and it was like I go, okay, Mum, and then I go, do what I had to do. So yes, okay. So the collaboration didn't happen.
It did here.
We got off topic. My fault.
What is the most important lesson you have learned while working in this area of safety?
Really, for me, it's the flip chart there with no. So this comes from Sun Tzu. A lot of people know, like Sun Tzu and the Art of War, it's a famous book. And a lot of people know that know yourself, know the enemy, the outcome of 100 battles you need not fear. But it's not the full quote. What he says is, know yourself, so self-awareness. Know the enemy. Now he's talking about warfare, but for me, today you're the enemy. Because you're my audience, you are the other. And I need to understand who you are in order to deliver the best thing I can deliver for you. So knowing the other. So if I'm about to travel, then who are the people in the place that I'm going to? Yeah, who are they? What's their culture like? What language do they speak? What type of people are they? As much information as I can gather. And then that also is know the ground. So I need to know the country. Where am I going? What's the appropriate dress code? What's the appropriate footwear? Yeah. Are the medical services good? Or should I always travel with a first aid kit anyway, but what do I do in a medical emergency? I went to Cambodia years ago. And the advice when you're going to Cambodia is make sure you know how to get to Thailand if you have a medical emergency. Not, this is the best hospital in Cambodia. No, get to Thailand. So those are important things. And then know the weather is what's the environment like? You know, we traveled to Egypt once on the anniversary of the revolution. Now we were going with locals. Had we not been going with locals, maybe we wouldn't have gone. I'd never seen so many men with guns, balaclavas. But it was possibly my safest visit ever to Egypt. But that's knowing the weather, what's going on at the time. Back during the Black Lives Matter protests, there were lots of videos of people being caught in their cars and their cars getting wrecked. And everyone was, oh, those poor people. I'm like, no, those stupid people. What were they even doing there? Why did you not check to see there's a mass march and protest going on downtown, and you chose to go downtown with your children? Why? You know, so know the weather, know the environment. So that, for me, I learned this quote years ago, but it was only when I started working in health and safety and teaching health and safety and first aid and fire safety that I realized the power of it, because it fits in any environment. For a teacher going into the classroom, you know, for any of you, you're about to walk into a job interview, it's all the same. It fits. Okay. Do we have a question, team 2?
Oh, we did. It's like a combination of these two. It was like, what training have you had that helped, that I guess makes you really well equipped to deliver these helpful messages to parents, so that we can help balance unnecessary anxiety around travel versus actually being, safe and judicious with our choices when we travel, with, especially with kids.
So, being a parent is possibly that's hands-on training. So doing that and traveling with my son when he was 12 and deciding we were going to, I was a single parent, we were going to live and work in Kuwait. So I'd say that was the most valuable training I've received. Outside of that, I am a Flower Tactical Systems coach. I'm part of the mobile training team. So I don't just coach civilians, I train trainers to join the team. So I'm part of that, and I'm his representative here in this part of the world. It's an American-based company, and I've been with them for approaching 6 years now. 2019 was when I first started with that. Do you understand NEBOSH? Does everyone know NEBOSH? So National Examination Board in Occupational Safety and Health. I have an international diploma in that, and then also IOSH, which is the Occupational Safety and Health people working and managing safety. And I spent most of my career, even when I was an engineer, before I got into training. And my training was based around security professionals in Kuwait first, and then I do a fair bit of that here. My role was around health and safety and just moving safety. I also worked part-time as a bouncer for about 12 years. So my experience of dealing with violence or preventing violence is quite high. And really when I look at it, violence is just another emergency. And usually if violence happens, you haven't managed something else. You forgot to do something, you missed something. Because the thing we don't want to teach people, I don't want to teach people how to fight. I want to teach people how to avoid the fight. Okay. So that's that. Cool. Okay. Any other questions before we kick off? No? Right, now I'm going to put the pressure back on you. Because I got a lot of information. And I'm going to go through this. Okay? So I'm going to ask you one question, and then we're going to go around the room, and I'll start with Viraj. Just because, which And I'm mainly doing that because when I asked where we're going to start, Jinty will start over there. So this time we start. Okay. So I just want you to a moment to reflect, and I want you to think. We have a process we call clear the fear. Because sometimes people, they want to listen to the subject, but everyone has a personal held fear, and that's the reason they're here. And sometimes they can't listen to anything else until that has been cleared, until that's been addressed. Or it may be you're looking at all of this and going, I want to know what that's about. So if you don't want to be courageous and share your fear, you can ask me to describe anything that's on the board. Okay? This tends to be the way I facilitate my work. I don't like lecturing. I'm not a big fan of standing up and yapping. I would rather get from you, so you, especially the smaller group, so you can walk away with your fears cleared and some reasons. Okay? So I'm going to go 1 minute on the clock to give for Ash time. So that GC that we'll get about 1.5 minutes. Okay? We'll go from there. But if you're good to go, when you're ready, go. There's no something I'll rush you. So, a fear you want to address about travel, or something what you talk about from
Yes, yeah.
or
Mostly I'm aware of like most fear is traveling like beach and like person mostly, and like sudden attacks or like people knife or weapons, that kind of things. Another thing, mostly if you're away from like other thing is kidnapping. It's almost like I had a little experience, not much, when I'm back at home. So that was like when I went to work and I'm like people like stop. So that's my most fear, and especially with the kids. And it's a big group and keep eye on everyone.
yeah, urban cats.
Mhm.
So when we look at a bad guy, okay, no matter where you are in the world, someone who wants to do bad things, we look at it, they only have 3 wants or needs: property, body, or life. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, they either want to steal something from you, they want to damage your body or do something with your body, or they want to take your life. So kidnapping is the little one body. Okay? And it's incredibly rare, really hard to do. And if you look at the kids at this school, there might be a percentage of the kids in this school that are a potential target for a kidnapping. But if you're traveling with the kids, that means the bad guy is very much involved and knows what's going on and they're targeting somebody. And the school would probably know about that if there is a threat. So in answer, and it may not clear the fear directly, I wouldn't worry about it. Your concern should be, do I know where all the kids are, where they're going to be? If there is a child that's maybe been highlighted, then hopefully the family are doing something to take care of that. It shouldn't be your responsibility, but just taking care of all the kids and knowing where are we going, you know yourself, know the enemy, know the ground, know the weather, okay? And have a look at it, and, do you have the skills required, etc. Okay, so, but we look at possible and probable. Is it possible that one of the kids on a school trip could be kidnapped? Of course it is. Of course it is. There could also be an earthquake, a lightning strike, a fire, a revolution. But probably not going to happen. Probably. Okay, so we want to focus on what's probable, not what's possible, because then that's anxiety through the roof. Okay?
That's the second one.
So yeah, let's focus on what we can control. And this is why I have human GPS. Yeah, when you want to go on a trip, you're about to drive your car, you don't know where you're going, never been there before, somewhere in Dubai, you put in the GPS, what does the GPS do? It gives you a preferred route, it gives you some alternatives. That's how I want you to think about walking, sleeping, and moving. Yeah, what's my plan, what's my alternate, what's my contingency? in an emergency, what do I do? If you think about those 4 things, we call it PETS. Plan. That's what we're going to do. If that doesn't work, we have an alternate. If that doesn't work, there's a contingency. And if it really goes bad, we know what to do in an emergency. Okay? So if you have that in mind, and the kids are prepared, yeah, it's going to be really hard for somebody to do that. And it's probably not going to happen. Cool?
Yep.
My worst fear is I've not had a personal experience, but I have this sort of stereotype in my head, and there are times when I feel I'm being followed, and that makes me very insecure. And I have never, like I said, I've never had an experience. I've never shared this with my 17-year-old daughter, but she has a very similar thought. Like, for example, she would never get into an elevator if there is a really bad elevator. And maybe we have told that to her in her younger days, but even till today she wouldn't do it. That's probably a fear that I have,
Okay.
and I don't know why.
Right.
Like,
So there's a gentleman called Gavin De Becker. I don't know if anyone heard of Gavin De Becker. He's a high-profile protection consultant. He lives and works out of Hollywood, so takes care of a lot of A-list stars with his organization. The FBI and the CIA use him to help profile bad guys and things like this. And he's a very smart guy. He wrote a great book called The Gift of Fear. And it's a wonderful book. I recommend it. Okay? And in it, he tells the story of a lady who worked as a psychiatric nurse. And she lived in a part of Los Angeles. When she moved in there, it was a really nice neighborhood. But over the years, it got a little bit spicy. But she'd been there for over 20 years. She goes to work dealing with psychiatric patients, and she's in a semi-secure unit. So violence often happens. There are outbreaks of craziness. So she's dealing with that every day, and she was trained to deal with that. And when she gets in through the doors, she's off. And then she'd get in her car and she'd drive home to her sketchy neighborhood. And she said, I am most scared each day when I'm walking from my car to my apartment and from my apartment to my car. And he said, right, so how many years have you been doing that? She said, over 20. He said, right. Have you ever been attacked on that walk? She said, no. He said, then stop worrying. Yeah. Be concerned. Look at it. When am I likely to be targeted and why would I be targeted? Bad guys want 3 things. This is a test. What are the 3 things bad guy wants?
Body, money, and like.
There you go. Probably body or life. Yeah, the escort. Yeah, probably body or life. Okay? So, if you think about it, what's likely to be the reason for you becoming addicted? And do what you can to hard target that. Okay? If you feel you're being followed, check. How can you check if you think someone's following you? Turn around and have a look.
have a look at it.
Have a look. Okay? You know, and there are techniques, and I won't go into all of that today, but yeah, have a look. Yeah, use a shop window if you have. Whatever. And the advice about never getting into an elevator, well, it could be a really good person in the elevator, and just because it's a man, it doesn't mean it's a bad guy. No.
Yeah.
Most bad guys are male. Okay? But you've got to look at it. I really detest the stranger danger approach. I don't like stranger danger. Because I just picture an 8-year-old me who's lost contact with mum or dad in the mall, and now all of a sudden everyone's dangerous. Because everyone's a stranger. Yeah.
It's an American thing.
Yeah. So what I say is, badges, ID badges, things like this, a uniform are usually, probably mean that's a safe stranger. So then that removes a lot of the doubt and fear away. But also, do you get a good or bad feeling about the person? And if you're not in a rush, then yeah, wait till the elevator's empty. You know, it's not a bad thing, but I don't want it to create fear and anxiety. Yeah. Cool.
It's my question is like it's not about fear. It's about us living in Dubai where the environment is so safe, and you get so easy when you lose your conscious when you travel to a different country because you always stay in a safety environment, right? And then like how to how to switch again back into be cautious, because I know when I was living in Ukraine, I would always make sure that my bag is zipped. No, but living in Dubai, I traveled to Ukraine and leave it unzipped, and my mom keeps saying like, zip, lock your bag, lock your bag. And I'm like, why? And you just forget about being cautious because here everything is safe, right?
One of my values as a consultant is this: I'm blunt. So, zip your bag. Always. You can ask, sorry, I don't. My mannerisms might change, especially when I go to England. She says, all of a sudden you're just different. And I am, but I don't really behave any different. There were approximately 60 stabbings last year in Dubai. One police officer was beheaded by an African gang with a machete. There were over 50 rapes. And most of those rapes were carried out by transport personnel. Okay? And we're not even talking about the violence and things that happened in some of the labor camps. Because that's, laborer on laborer. We don't even hear about that. But everything I've talked about is happening to members of the public. So is Dubai safe? Yes. Much safer than many other cities in the world. Okay, so I would recommend you want to travel somewhere safe, come to Dubai. It's safe. Okay? Yeah. Listen to your mother. Okay, your mother's got it right. All right? Because how you do one thing is how you do everything. You're proving that. I am relaxed and Dubai, it's safe. And then when I go somewhere where it's potentially dangerous, I behave the same way. And all the bad guys go, yes. Yeah. So
that's why I'm here, just
choose safety. Choose safety. Choose safety. What's the safest thing I can do right now? Is zip my bag up. I want to put my bag on the floor, so I'm going to put it on the floor, but I'm going to put the leg on the handle of my purse, so someone can't just kick it and take it. Things like that.
Okay, I have a 3-year-old who loves to run and walk away and disappear. So one of my fears is that, I'm traveling or I'm somewhere and let's say it's cold, I'm putting on a jacket or I'm just looking for 2 seconds and she just disappears, which she does a lot to me. So my fear is like what do I do in such a situation? And she's 3, she can kind of communicate, but it's not the best communication. So you kind of helped me a while ago. You were saying about to look for people who are wearing like badges or whatnot. But I feel like there must be more that I can kind of do.
As a parent, I remember one of the times I lost my son as a single parent. That was on a beach. Scariest moment of my life, and I even okay, because it's horrible. Because you're at the beach, so is he drowning? Has he been kidnapped by strangers? I don't know. And it was the scariest 15 minutes of my life. All right, but a nice lady found him, gave him to a lifeguard, and I went to speak to a lifeguard and within minutes. Yeah, we have your son. He's down here. Come get him. He's fine. He's playing in the sand. He hadn't even noticed. Okay, so yes, there are people around. Can you start training your 3-year-old? Yes, you can. If you can't find mommy, then find somebody with a badge. Those are things you can do. But also, it's got to be a case of, I'm about to put on my sweater, stay put. Yeah? I'm not a fan of those reins. I don't like them. However, if you're about to put on a jumper or you're about to do something and there's a big, huge potential for your child to do a disappearing act, stick the reins on, stand on it, put the jumper on. Yeah? But communication. Okay? For this minute, don't run off. And then you can do all of these things and turn them into games for the kids. And then they become fun. It's like you've got to find me, so you disappear. You can just start playing games that are about find me, what am I wearing? You want your child to know, ideally when they're old enough to know how to contact you by phone. To be able to describe what you're wearing, describe things about you that never change. So if you always wear the glasses. My mum always wears glasses and she's always got her hair tied. things that she can then say to a stranger, this is what my mum looks like. I mean, at 3, she's not going to remember your phone number. But that, not too far away, by 5, probably true. Yeah, so just think you can do it. But it's communication with the child. How much, you don't want to say this scares mummy, but you know, it's hard for mummy when you disappear. Yeah, have the conversation, let her understand why. They'll get it. Like I said, at 5, I was delivering medicine through an injection to my mother. Now, okay, I would recommend it, but we're capable of learning much more than we give our younger selves credit for.
I just wanted to say that the same thing happened to my middle child. My dad lost her. He had all the grandkids, there's all of them. And then she went missing because I think she saw something in the shop when we were traveling. And she had learned our phone number. So she went to a couple who had a kid, and this nice Irish lady calls me and she goes, I have your daughter Rudy. I was like, oh, well, great, because I didn't even know she was missing yet. Because I was supposed to meet my dad at a restaurant. So it does work, and they do, I think she learned that here, to like go to a family that has kids, so that safe strangers, exactly, and know the phone number, so she was able to call me. It worked really well.
So when I'm teaching the high school kids self-defense here on a Monday, that's one of the things I say. I say, I know you're older, but safe strangers. You always go to the same type of mall or whatever, so, and your parents probably only drink Starbucks or only drink Costa. Well, get to know the staff in those places. Get them to recognize you, so when you come up and you're in distress, you're part of the family almost. Yeah, because the staff are always there. So get them to know you. That gives your child somewhere safe to go. Yeah, and if they suddenly appear there, the staff are like, where's your mum? Because, right, so when you turn up, talk to the staff, get to know the staff, introduce your child. Yeah? So, and then you've now got the village gets bigger and bigger to keep you safe. Yeah? And we do the same when we travel. And I learned this more from my son. My son's first visit to Dubai, I was walking around with him his second day in Barsha Heights. And 3 security guards went, hey Jake! And I was like, what? How do they know your name? He said, well, I spoke to them yesterday. And that was a big reminder to me. Okay, so, get to know people. Because your world will keep you safer. And you can't be afraid of it. But obviously you've got to be choosy. Did you?
My fear is, I feel like I shouldn't share this. Because I still get on planes. But every time I book a flight, I want to cancel it because I think the plane's going to go down. It's either going to explode, crash, mechanical failure. I sometimes comfort myself that if I'm with my family, I'm like, we'll all go down together. But what I don't like is not being with them and I'm on a plane because I don't want to die and leave them behind.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. People often say when you travel, have a safe flight, and that's up to the pilot. And I don't know the number of how many planes are in the air at the moment and how many have a problem and people die. We know it's rare. Why do we know it's rare?
Because we come back alive every time we fly.
Yeah, but also, are shocked every time it does happen. If it was a norm, somebody got run over, oh, that's terrible. But it's kind of like,
Yeah, it happens every day.
Yeah, but, it does, So, you're in New York, somebody was shot. Really? Oh, well, no surprise there. Okay, sad, but true. So, it's a bit like the lady, walking to and from her apartment. You have yet to die in a plane crash, I'm guessing. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, but I get it, but you've got to look at it and you've got to say, well, okay, would you choose dodgy airlines or us, or would you go British Airways? Yeah, so there are choices you can make to help. Okay, and if it does concern you, look at the history of that particular airline, and if they've had an incident, maybe that's enough to say, no, I'm not going to fly that airline. But I found out recently that the other wings, when you go through turbulence, the wings are designed to go vertical. So when the plane drops, the wings are designed to flex, and they are apparently designed so they can go vertical and not snap. So when you see it in the movies and they do that, no, that's just for dramatic effect. It doesn't work like that. They're incredibly well made. Okay, but I'm kind of with you. I'm like, huh? Because you have no control, absolutely no control. But it's so rare, so rare.
And wasting most of the time. You don't know anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It lands and you didn't know that they had an engine.
Or else if it's something happens, you won't come
I'm
back.
I'm not sure I cleared your fear, but I think you know,
It helps, yeah.
but
I'm still going to Malaysia, don't worry.
I have the same.
It's not a fear. One of my fears, I guess, before, because I have a fair bit of training in there, and then I travel a lot on my own without him, so I don't always have him. So I need to be a presence, which when I'm with him, sometimes I let my guard down a little. But when I'm not with him, I try to think about what he tells me. I know one of the things that I found most valuable, because I often travel to sketchy places, is, and I was talking to you guys about this, is to have that look, that, I guess, look of non-approachability. And for me, that's really helped, just having, so if you're in an area with the kids, and same thing when I've traveled with students, just sometimes there's been some crazy things that are going on, and I've got all these kids around me. I know one time when we were in Poland, we came upon these two drunk guys that were fighting. And I just was like, we need to move through, like we're owning this. We're going, let's not have that victim look, let's go through, let's be quick about it. And I know that sort of was something that I found very valuable. Yeah.
So,
To
can I
not
jump
look
on
down,
that? Yeah.
to
Look up, make eye contact. We have what we call Superman look if you want to break eye contact. So Raj is just staring at me, and I look, he's still staring at me, and I could do this, I could go to break eye contact, or I could go, yeah, up and like Superman. Yeah, they will be break eye contact. But, so when I'm teaching the kids, or if I'm teaching adults, it's the resting B face, okay, is useful. Have this look, but you want to walk and talk like you own the place. Because if you own the place and you know people, even if you don't know them, I'm like, hey Dave, how are you? Yeah, he has no idea. He goes, hey, and has no idea I am. It doesn't matter. If someone's following me, all of a sudden, that's somebody my potential victim knows. Now, their value has gone down for me because I don't want someone to come and help them. That's just me saying hi to a complete stranger. Okay, but now I've got an ally. They don't know they're my ally. The bad guy doesn't know whether I know them or not, but it helps. Okay? If you are, and this really isn't about self-defense, but it kind of is. If you are facing a bad guy and someone's in front of you, if you know that you can be incredibly aggressive and switch that on, that might help. But if that's not naturally you, then play the victim, and we call it the Trojan horse. Okay, because the Trojan horse was viewed as a gift, but inside was an army. Okay, so when the bad guy's in front of you, if I just borrow Raj is stood there like, oh, please don't hurt me, please, please. Now, what happens to the bad guy's confidence? So now he thinks, well, this will be easy. So now he's not ready for me to fight back, and then when I hit him, he doesn't see it coming. Yeah, so it's the Trojan horse. So I walk around like, this is my neighborhood, I own this. Then I'm less likely to be targeted. But if I am targeted, because I was not awake, and suddenly I'm sat here, and then the bad guy stood in front of me, I'm, whoa, what's that, hey, hey, hey. Yeah, I play the victim, because I need him to want to use less violence. And I might say, hey, my name's Aaron, who are you? It's really hard for someone not to respond to that. Okay? Because now he knows my name, and now I know his name. Now violence is much harder for him. Conscience and accountability. Okay, so these are things that we do. Okay.
Yeah, I'm here to cover all the time. But I think it's fearless.
Echoing what Chloe was saying,
I think I also have traveled on my own to a lot of incredibly sketch places, and what it resonated so much. Like I've done that so often, you just put on that face. But it is a balance between like knowing your community, and that's what keeps you the most safe. Usually, it's still tiny are times where you just, no matter your size or your stature, you know, it's the middle of the night and you're in a place you're like, I shouldn't be here. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, on a mission.
Yeah.
On a mission.
Bring up the question.
I'm just kidding. No, I don't, fear. Okay, right now I fear that maybe it's not related. It's completely uncontrollable. My fear is, because I was in a car accident with my son. So for me, I feel like I can laser beam see car accidents all over. And I do see car accidents all over in this country.
Yes.
And I leave the school every day and I see so many kids without seatbelts. Like, I'm the seatbelt Nazi. I'm like, so I just want to be, that's what I see all the time. I'm like, with my kids, I don't care if you get seatbelts. Get in the car. If there's 10 kids in the car, don't get in if you don't have a seatbelt. So these are things I see in my Dubai living. What is that?
See, that's true safety.
Shoe safety. I always tell my kids, look.
When you get in a car in this country,
That's
danger is imminent.
Yeah.
Period.
That's
Shoe
my-
safety, wear a
Exactly.
seatbelt.
That's my thing.
Cool. Perfect.
You answered many of my questions, but I think I have like two. I'm afraid that I'm not enough. That I'm not afraid enough. You know what I mean? And not because I'm strong or prepared, but because I'm naive. And I admit it. Because I travel like everybody, but I never travel somewhere thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to be in danger. So that makes me unprepared. I now listen to all of this because I don't think that way. And I'm going to go there to enjoy. And I'm not prepared.
As you should.
As I should, right? But I also should be prepared. But I have a 3-year-old who's the total opposite of Hani's daughter, who never leaves my side. He's very cautious and he doesn't talk to strangers. He goes just like, I'll stay with mommy or daddy or whoever I know. He's never going on his own and he doesn't talk to people. But I want to encourage him too. You know, I don't want him to become naive like me, but I don't want him to become this, like, I'm not. And we never taught him don't go and talk to people because we wouldn't say that, but this is his nature. He's cautious and he doesn't go to people that he doesn't know ever in his life. So how do I help him, you know, connect to people without becoming naive about the potential dangers? And for myself, now I'm learning a lot, right? Like building awareness and thinking ahead and planning and thinking about him too. I told you before, we've had experiences here in Dubai because he's little and he's cute and blonde. We have people who come and take his pictures or want to take his picture, like people speaking on the phone to somebody and then they say, "Oh, here's his little mom," and put their phone in his face, and we were like, "No, please!" But people did that several times. So all of this protecting him, but also helping him to be confident in approaching and, you know, dealing with people, and also my ability to think ahead and plan or whatever.
So first thing I want you to do is stop thinking about yourself as well. Because if you're carrying that, he feels that. So
I've never thought about it until today. I never thought about it. I'm so naive about traveling, you know. But hearing the thoughts
how
that
many
people
times
have,
have you been attacked, been in a fire?
I've been followed once in high school, and I was terrified. I was so afraid. I ran, you know, and I got into my apartment building, and then that's where the person stopped because he came into the building, but then my apartment was right on the ground floor, and they just got in the house. But that was a terrifying experience. The only time that I really felt like, oh my gosh, this is really dangerous. But that hadn't taught me anything apparently.
Well, no. I mean, one, you were successful. You defended yourself.
I ran away. Yes.
But it worked.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can't say it's. I don't encourage people to run away unless you know how to run. But also, where are you running to? Now you knew where you were running.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's cool. And you know I can get in through, boom, and I'm good. All right. But if the last time you ran was at high school, you haven't run since, running away as a tactic is probably not a good idea because you don't know how far you can run before you're exhausted. Yeah, and you know your attacker's probably some skinny whatever that is running away from the police or chasing people. Yeah, that's their life.
Your enemy.
Exactly, know your enemy. Okay, so I believe in avoiding situations that are potentially dangerous. Wearing your seatbelt is one way of avoiding dying in a car crash. Having a car with airbags is another way of avoiding that. Okay, so these are all choose safety moments. But if you are going to say run away is the best option, know where you're running to. Have a plan. Have an alternate. Have a contingency emergency. Yeah. How far can you run and still be functional? Where are you running to? Who are you running to? Because just running is kind of silly, because then you're Forrest Gump and end up in the middle of the wood, now you're all alone with the bad guy. Okay? So have a plan. Alright? And as for your son, he'll get older and, but if he sees your confidence, his confidence. And right now, you're right, strangers are coming up and saying, ooh, and that, he has a very instinctive reaction to that. He's like, I don't know how I feel about this, and that's correct. Because that's invading his space. So you teach, no, yeah, and then he'll eventually, as he gets older, be able to control his own space. So, right, we have 10 minutes left, which is, I was hoping for 15, go.
Can you explain what the Japanese proverb means?
Right, so what I was going to do now was I was going to walk the wall and then just deal with everything that's on the wall and field a few questions. Is that good? I'm hoping everybody learned a bit from somebody. That's how I prefer to do these, and with this smaller number it worked. Okay. Right, so a doubtful mind creates devils in the dark. Yeah, Japanese proverb. If you are not sure about something and doubt comes in, what follows doubt is then probably hesitation or fixation. Okay? So, doubt is the enemy. No. So if you have doubt and you're not sure, it's like that fear of the dark. Well, the dark can't hurt you. So step into the dark and always travel with a torch. Okay, and then there's no devils in the dark, because you look at the dark and go, there's nothing there, I'm good. Yeah, so no. All right, makes sense? Right, I'll start over there and I'm going to work this way. So, today there was rain in the mountains. I read this in a Hunter-Gatherer's Guide to the 21st Century, written by two environmental biologists, I think, the Weinsteins. Anyway, there's a story. They were in South American country doing studies for part of their PhDs. And they've been in this particular country for some time. And there was a beach they used to go to, okay, and they would swim, sunbathe, everything else. And there were always people there. And then one day they go there and there's nobody else there. And then a local walks by and he sees they're ready to go down the beach. And all he says is, today there was rain in the mountains. He goes to walk away. But they're like, yeah, good morning. But instinct, intuition went, why did he say that? So they grab him, and they don't speak the language yet very well, and so in between he tells them, well, there was rain in the mountains. But that's all he's got in English, is there was rain in the mountains. And then eventually they figured out it's dangerous to be on this beach when there's rain in the mountains. They're like, this beach, everyone's always at this beach, but no one was there today. Why? Because all the locals knew the ground and knew the weather. They sat there for 10 minutes because he said, don't go on the beach. That's what we finally figured, don't go on the beach. So we stood back with him. And then within about 10 minutes, flash flood came down. So when there's rain in the mountains, it washes down a lot of rubbish and people will die. The locals knew that. They didn't. So know your ground. Know where you go. Okay? Next one, my child needs knife defense training. I was speaking with a parent from this school. Their child graduated 2 or 3 years ago. But they suddenly heard all these reports from Toronto of stabbings. Everybody's getting stabbed in Toronto. There's more knife crime than there is gun crime. Okay, so they need knife self-defense training. So I just spent with them 5 minutes Googling knife defense, or not knife defense, knife attacks in Toronto, stabbings in Toronto. Turns out, here's the deal. Only people on their own, and usually males, are getting stabbed. And they're on their own. Always on their own. They're getting stabbed in 24-hour convenience stores, pharmacies, and mass transport stations. The people doing the stabbing are homeless drug users. So did their child need to learn how to defend themselves against the knife? No. If you're going to go to any of those 24-hour places, go during daylight, because it's happening at night. And if you have to go at night, don't go on your own. The chances of you getting stabbed going from this, this. But if you want to practice nice self-defense, go there at 3 o'clock in the morning on your own, stand there and say, hey, I'm here, and you might get stabbed. Yeah? So that's know the ground, know the weather. Yeah? We often panic about, oh, I'm going to learn this. Well, no, let's have a look at it and break it down. And I say that with anything. Chloe recently went to Pakistan. Lots of our friends were, you can't go to Pakistan, you'll get shot, you'll get mugged. Well, now let's do the research. Have a look. Google's your friend. Have a look. I say this to all the high school students I train, and when I speak with the seniors this year, I tell them the same thing. Google crimes against first-year university students at your university in the city you're going to. Be very specific. And all universities have to provide that data. So it'll be there. Most students that get attacked are first-year students, and 90% of the attacks happen between September and December. Why? Because they're all new to the city. They don't know the good place and the bad place. So, but every student that leaves this school should do that research, so they can reduce the chances of them being killed.
So they know the situation.
They know the situation. Know the enemy. Who are the bad guys? Who are they attacking? Where are they attacking them? Let's not be there. That's step one. A recent graduate, she said, everybody looks at me because of my hair. My hair's different. So she said, I was thinking of wearing a hoodie. And I said, think of a better choice than a hoodie. And she went, oh, I know. I said, you want to cover your hair because people are staring at your blonde hair? She said, yeah. Oh, okay. So what else can you do? She went, a beanie. I said, there you go. So she bought a beanie. She said, I've traveled, she let me know. She said, I've traveled on the subway for weeks. Nobody even looked at me. Yeah? But, you know, the hoodie's a problem because it cuts down your physical vision. The beanie, much better. It did the job. And she was able to disappear rather than use it. Parents. Everyone in the room's a parent. Pretty much. Yes, you are. When you travel with kids, you're dad. Yeah? Okay, so you're a parent. Hands up if you have this skill. Yeah, get it. Okay? Know how to use a fire extinguisher. Know which one to use and how to use it and have practiced. Yeah. Okay? If you can't defend yourself, how can you defend your kids? I'm not saying you should become a fighter, but you should know how to get you and your child to safety should there be a bad guy. And it's not about fighting the bad guy. Viraj, can I borrow you again? Okay, and I need a child. Give me my child.
Well, very good.
Okay, so I'm here, we're walking, we're holding hands. He comes in to grab the child. I can just immediately push him out the way and go for a run. Okay, that's self-defense. Yeah, I'm not going to have an altercation with him. I just want to get past him another way. I need to have a plan. I need to know what I'm going to do. Okay, physical fitness. If we look at it, traveling, maybe there's a fire. Do you have the strength to drag or carry your child to safety? Do you have the physical fitness to go down 10 floors in a smoke-filled stairwell? Now, it's hard to train that, but you could grab the medicine ball and run up and down the stairs a few times and think, okay, that sucked, but I was able to do it. Yeah? And then your 3-year-olds, can that become a game? We've got to crawl, because the smoke is from the roof down to here, so we've got to crawl to do this. Okay, we're going to crawl. We're going to play a crawl game. Okay? But then, when it is an emergency and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, you say, crawling game! Yay, crawling game! Yeah? Then they're with you rather than you having to take them. Big difference, yeah? Okay, so these are the games we can play. So, physical fitness, you don't need to become an athlete, but you need to be able to do something in an emergency. You will be afraid. Understand it and harness it. It is what it is. Not much you can do about it. Know yourself. Fear just creates doubt and hesitation. If you feel doubt about something, that's fear. Get to know it. Ability. I love this value. School value. I want to change it. As a parent, you have an ability, you have a response to be able to, you have an ability, you have a responsibility to respond. You need to be able to do something. That's your goal as a parent. Okay? Training, training, training. And I don't mean, yeah, you come to Irvine for training. Yes, I can give you the training. Of course I can. I can do the first aid, I can do the fire safety, I'll do it all. But get your training. Yeah, you have great medical staff here. Go in, have a chat. How do I deal with choking? That's the biggest one. Yeah, how do I deal with that? What do I do? My son's alive today because I knew how to deal with choking. All right? Horrific, but glad I knew. All right? This stops this. Yeah? Doubt, hesitation, fixation. We say action. There's a great movie, World War Z, Brad Pitt. Yeah? Okay, it's a really good movie. For one quote, he says, what I learned is those that move stay alive. Those that stay put die. Okay? We did this one. We did that one. Okay.
Human airbag.
Oh, human airbag. So human airbag is this. It's been a long time since she's done it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to punch Chloe in the head. She's going to hit me with the human airbag. You ready?
Just fear.
Yeah. Go on this side. Don't get this side.
Whoa.
Okay, that's the human airbag. So what does an airbag do? Now, it's human nature to push away danger. Okay? So we will naturally do this if someone moves towards us. Okay? All we do with the spear system is teach you to recognize that. We turn that into, because if like the barrage is coming towards me, I'm like, please don't hurt me, please. Okay, my hands are already up. Now if I'm like, please don't hurt me, then he's already attacked me. But if my hands are up and he moves towards me, my hands are going to push away danger. That's going to be natural. He's going to move away. Then it's going to work. Okay? So a rule of thumb, thank you. A rule of thumb is this, and I think this is a life lesson. Always have your hands higher than the bad guy's hands.
And I guess in like busy areas too, just be aware of your,
Yeah. But what I mean by that is, put a seatbelt. That's having your hands higher than the enemy. Yeah? So it's not just having your hands physically higher than the enemy. When you're going on a trip, know where you're going, know who the bad guys are, know what type of attacks are common on tourists. All of that knowledge is your hands being higher than the bad guys. Don't go in naive or ignorant. Go in with some knowledge and have a plan, have an option, and have a contingency of an emergency. So just knowledge. Google is your friend. Because if you go aware and you've been told on this street, pickpockets, okay, zip the bag up. Yeah, maybe change the type of bag. Now your hands are higher than the bad guys. Because he's going, yeah, bag zipped up. One last thing. Pakistan, Karachi. Lots of people get robbed in their cars. Most of the people that get robbed are robbed at gunpoint by two motorcyclists. And most of the cars targeted are cars with families in it. So I asked the question, because this was told to me by a Karachi native. I said, how do they know there's a family in the car? He said, well, most people can't afford to run the AC, so they have their windows down. Well, if you don't want to be held up at gunpoint in a car in Karachi, do your windows up and sweat. Or turn the AC on and pay.
They can see you.
They can
Like
see
you're not
you.
from you.
Exactly.
I mean, I lived in Brazil, and we were gunpoint was
Yeah.
always something.
Yeah.
So we kept an extra wallet in the car to hand the guy to be like,
Yeah.
because they always need something.
Yeah.
And we put some money in there,
Good.
and we have two. Because they'd go after the driver, and it didn't happen to us, but I was
You were ready.
thinking like it was
Hands
going to happen.
above the bad guy. Okay. I once went to Brazil and I went to the Volvo factory back when I was an engineer. Volvo was one of our clients. So I go to Brazil and I'm speaking to a Swedish guy who's running the factory there, and he said on arrival they were given an insurance wallet, and in the wallet is a debit card, and that debit card has $200 on it. And there's an account with a number, and in the wallet was also $100. So, and this is what he was told when he was given the wallet. When you get mugged, give them this. Not if, when you get mugged, give them this. Know yourself, know the enemy, know the ground, know the enemy. You can be prepared for all of it. And if at the end of it you've done all that prep and you're like, too many unknowns, then don't go. Too simple. But there aren't very many places in the world that aren't war zones that I would say you can be safe pretty much anywhere with a little bit of this and enough of this.